Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipson. Today's guest is Darren Glover, the VP of Gaming at VaynerSports, founded by Gary Vaynerchuk. Darren is managing the professional Fortnite player Kyle Bugha Giersdorf and the Web3 gaming creator Brycent, but he does not consider himself an agent. Darren comes from a marketing background and says that he is obsessed with consumer behaviors. Get ready to learn how it is like working with Gary Vee, why the esports ecosystem is struggling, how Darren looks at diversity in esports, if it is important for esports to be classified as a sport, and much more. Darren Glover, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Me too. How are you doing?
I am busy, but in a good way.
Glad to hear it. And you told me you're in Minneapolis. It's 11 a.m. having some coffee.
Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yes, I just finished my cold brew.
Cold brew in November?
I know. The coffee barista lady always laughs at me. One, because I go there every morning. Two, it'll be the middle of the winter time. The last 2 years that I've lived in my townhome here, and I'll be in my winter jacket. I've got a huge puffy hat with fur on it, and I'll be walking around with a cold brew. Yeah, I can't do hot coffee. I don't know why. I'm not a fan of just a hot cup of coffee. I have to have cold. Don't know why, but
yeah, I'm all for the cold brew myself. By the summertime, I need something more warm in the winter.
Yeah.
Anyway, you are the VP of Gaming at VaynerSports. So can you talk a little bit about your role and what it entails?
Yeah, there's a lot of different hats. I think in classic Vayner fashion, if people are familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, who's the chairman of VaynerSports and is kind of the face and brand of this whole ecosystem, it's very like a lot of different hats, a lot of stuff going on. Like you've got a direction that you're headed, but you're kind of going all over the place a little bit. So as VP of Gaming at VaynerSports, I represent talent. So VaynerSports, we're a sports agency. So we represent talent, athletes on and off the field. We've got a awesome division in baseball for the MLB. We've got NFL. We've got combat, which is a lot of like MMA fighters, and then gaming and esports. And then we have NIL, which is representing those talent while they're still in college. So from a gaming angle, I don't have 50 different clients. I have 2 clients. One of them is Bugha. Bugha is the Fortnite World Cup champion, still one of the best esports athletes in the world. He's playing in the $1 million Fortnite Invitational in Raleigh this weekend. So he's just a massive brand in the industry. And then I represent a Web3 gaming creator named Brycent. So he's the biggest Web3 gaming creator. And those are my 2 clients that I represent. As VP of Gaming, I'm now able to work across the grander Vayner ecosystem for kind of all things gaming and esports, but more of as a marketer. I'm a marketer. I'm a marketing guy. I just so happen to represent talent. I'm not an agent. So it's more working across our VaynerSports consulting division. And then it's working across the VaynerX ecosystem that houses VaynerMedia, which is a billion-dollar global media agency, and Vayner3, which is a Web3 agency. And then also our VaynerSports Pass. So it's kind of like all things gaming and esports of how to drive business objectives to hit the cohort of gamers. How do you do it? Why do you want to be there? And what can you get out of it? That's my role, is to be that voice of reason. That's, completely subjective, that just tells it how it is, to help brands tap into the gaming space in the right way.
That's awesome. So you say you're not an agent, but you're an agency, you're a marketing guy. So what is it exactly that you help the talent with?
Well, that's the thing. Like I see talent, it's brands. So like I'm representing brands. So Bugha's real name is Kyle Giersdorf. I don't represent Kyle Giersdorf. I represent Bugha. I'm empathetic to Kyle Giersdorf, and I talk to Kyle a lot, and he's a great human being. But when it comes down to Bugha as a brand in the space, that's what I represent. So it's Bugha, it's Smart Water, it's Caribou Coffee, right? It's a brand. It's got a mission. It's got pillars. It's got desires, wants. needs, partnerships that make sense, partnerships that don't make sense. That's how I represent Bugha and Brycent, is they've got people and humans behind the scenes, but I think about them as if I'm a marketing agency and I'm the AOR of the Bugha and Brycent brand. So that's kind of like the thin line between where I sit from representing talent versus a more traditional agent for an athlete has other responsibilities that are more agent heavy that don't have to necessarily do with marketing and brand development that I don't have to deal with because I don't represent athletes with players associations and all that stuff. I represent content creators and esports athletes that I see as brands, not just people.
Got it. You mentioned Web3 and that one of your talents was a Web3 gamer. So can you just give, the very short explanation, what is Web3 and how does it differ to be a gamer versus Web3 gamer?
Yeah, so Bugha is an esports athlete. It's a little different of how to represent him as he's competing to be the best. And his brand is definitely around high-level performance, winning the Fortnite World Cup, winning. He's the best. If you want to be inspired of what you can do from a competitive angle of gaming, watch Bugha, follow Bugha, learn his story, be inspired by his story. Brycent, Brycent, he's a content creator. So he's developing entertaining content. The niche game and community that he's involved with right now is Web3 games, which are games that are built on or adjacent to the blockchain, which basically just means that in-game assets are actually open to own on the blockchain. So in the most simplistic format, think Fortnite, Call of Duty, Apex Legends, etc. All the skin drops, all the battle passes, all the cosmetics, everything that is inside of the game that you would purchase from that game is an NFT. It lives on the blockchain. It's something that I actually own. It's not something that I'm just renting from the EA servers. It's something that I actually own and control myself. So not to get too detailed into like blockchain and Web3, but at its core, that's basically what it is it's giving the ownership of the time and conversions and everything that gamers put into a game. And 99% of them get nothing out of it other than just the entertainment factor. Now with Web3, you're actually going to be able to extract real world value based on your time put into a game.
Is there an interest from VaynerSports side to focus on other esports, Counter-Strike or, League of Legends, you name it?
Yes, there's always interest. I'm always recruiting in my own different way. I'm not recruiting because I need to sign people. I'm trying to find talent that I want to work with. Brycent is somebody that's an investment. He was here last year. Now he's here. Like, it's someone that I feel like has a high ceiling of growth due to their uniqueness. Bugha is a very unique character in the long tail of esports and gaming because he's going to be in the history books. Brycent has a high ceiling because he's a Black content creator, which in and of themselves are underserved. He's playing games that are very small in a niche community that I think is going to be bigger. So it's all investment that I can see a higher ceiling than everyone else. And I want to get people before they pop. Yes, I'd love to work with the League of Legends, CSGO, Valorant type individuals that play that game, but I don't see there being anybody with a high enough ceiling to get me to really want to work with them. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I wish them nothing but the best. There's such a stagnant plateau now of esports and gaming. It's very difficult to pop off these days inside of the ecosystem. Like, I remember 2017 to 20 was like every other week there was somebody that was like breaking a record or doing something crazy. And like, so many creators were popping off them. That's not happening these days. Everyone is like slow growth of their platforms and channels. And even from an esports side of things, like the esports ecosystem is struggling a lot. Just because you're the best player doesn't mean you're the most marketable. And that's where revenue is driven. So it's like, do I want to work with the best? I do, but not always, because that doesn't mean that they're the most marketable, which is how you build brands, is leveraging who you are and what you do. And how can you market that to the masses? That's ultimately what agents and agencies look for. And that doesn't necessarily make you the most marketable. So it's a complex nature. So a long-winded way to say, yes, I'm always interested, but I'm not I'm not just out there looking for anybody. I'm being very particular with what I'm looking for and why I want to work with talent.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have more of a, quality over quantity type of approach, and that you're looking for something that gives the biggest ROI in the long run. Am I correct?
Yes, from an external perspective, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And then from an internal perspective, like I feel bad for people that sign with agencies and don't get anything out of it, right? It's setting unrealistic expectations and not delivering on your promises. And that's what I think a lot of gamers and content creators have dealt with, because agencies are more like MCMs, which is just sign as many talent as you can and then sell against the aggregate. But that doesn't mean that you're actually working with the talent specifically. You're just helping get them opportunities by selling everyone. And the trickle down effect of that will be a couple breadcrumbs here and there along the journey. And that's why there's a lot of turnover with those large agencies, because you sign and you were promised all this stuff. And then a year later, you don't get anything and you end up leaving. And I don't want that to be a reputation that I build, where you ask Bugha and you ask Brycent. I'm very involved with what they're doing and I'm very excited. And I really believe in their ability to be successful. And I want to be involved. I'm not just selling all 20 of my people to hopefully get one-off opportunities for them. I'm really invested into all points of their brand and career. And I've got a long-term approach, but I can't do that with 20 people. It's impossible.
That makes sense. You said before that the esports ecosystem is struggling. What do you mean by that?
I mean, look what's happening. Every other esports org every other week is getting rid of half their employees. I mean, the old model of how all these esports orgs raised money over the last 3 years is not coming to fruition. It's not just my opinion. I mean, you don't lay off people if your business is booming. You're restructuring the organization due to something. And that something is what I mean by struggling. So struggling in the sense of what I thought the industry was going to be 3 years ago is not what it is today. And a lot of orgs have to pivot because the business model that they thought was going to be their main revenue driver is not coming to fruition. So we got to do something different. So struggling, I guess, is a harsh term, but that's what I mean by struggling, is repivoting and restructuring what our priorities are in our business, because what we did the last couple of years is not working and we have to change something.
I see. When esports became more known by the masses, if you can say it like that, some people took issue with the name esports because they said that it's not a sport.
Yeah.
Is that important to be classified as a sport? It's also, we have called it gaming, we have called it esports. So is that important to the community?
I think it's very important. I think people have bastardized esports and they put it inside with other sports. So it'll be like basketball, football, esports, soccer. But esports should be at the top. So you've got sports and you've got esports. Esports is not a sport. Esports is a category of sports. So that's where I think the pivot has to change. And I think the majority of people in the industry understand that. It's more of when you see people do that, whoever's telling you that is kind of like a mental note of they don't understand what they're talking about, because esports is not a sport. Esports is like the umbrella of a lot of different game titles that have competitive natures to them, and they're all different. So it's like sports. Oh, well, let me tell you, the NBA is a basketball, NFL is football, blah, blah, blah. Like that's how you would categorize professional sports. Professional esports is, Call of Duty, you got the CDL, League of Legends, you got LC. Like that's how it should be categorized. And that's when people know what they're talking about, because when they don't do that, they don't know what they're talking about. So that's how I would answer that question.
It's the first time I've heard that, but it makes total sense when you say it.
Yeah, which makes sense. It's like sports and esports. Like that makes total sense to me. Like I don't want to categorize CDL in the same conversation as the NBA. I don't think that's fair. And I don't think that helps either party out. I think it's like categorizing in two separate conversations, which is you want to go into sports. Here's how you do that. And here's all the different sports you can get involved with. Or you want to go into esports and here's all the different things you can get involved with. It breaks it up a little more, which I think it makes people understand it a little more, and it doesn't bastardize esports.
Yeah, talking about esports, you said before that they might be struggling. You said it might be a harsh word, but let's say that anyway. So how do you see the future now? Where are the areas of potential growth? Do we see some trends? How does the future look like in your opinion?
It's all media and entertainment and merchandising. That's every company in general, right? Even companies that we're historically very retail driven. Every incorporation on planet Earth has to think of themselves as a media company because that's where you talk to your customers, right? You don't have to wait for your one TV commercial anymore. And I guess 2022, like I can't believe that I'm still saying it, but it's this idea that everybody who is a trademarked incorporation has to think of themselves as a media brand. They have to generate a tremendous amount of content in their own way because that's where you engage with your customers 24 hours every day of every week of the year. Esports org's revenue stream cannot just be on the back of finding the best team and winning championships. That's not how you generate revenue. They have to figure out more ways to generate more revenue, and that's via media and entertainment, and then finding ways to leverage the IP that you've created with your organization, Optic, TSM, 100 Thieves, FaZe, XSET, whatever that might be. And then how do we merchandise that? How do we create a complete store of opportunities that people can purchase an endless amount of different items that we want to sell to them? And that's like, I don't know what it is, but that's how they have to create their company moving forwards to generate that style of revenue stream and own it themselves. Winning championships and sponsorship dollars you cannot build a sustainable business that way. Your entire business is on the back of someone else's money. How do you raise money with that company? It's impossible. You see all these orgs starting to repivot themselves to generate more verticals of revenue in which they own that. It's not, let's generate this massive sales team and churn and burn sponsorship dollars that we're taking a percent from. That's not sustainable to build and grow long term. It's impossible. No, you can't do that. How do we start to do that with our own products? How do we monetize our own products without someone else's money? That's the repivot that has to happen, because the days of the future of $100 million prize pool that we're going to go after, like, well, that's still someone else's money, right? Look at what happened to Halo. Halo promised a lot and delivered on a little. Fortnite had a $3 million World Cup in 2019. They have $1 million invitational this weekend. They went down. If your entire org was built on trying to create revenue from finding the best player to win that, your entire business model got screwed, not by anything from your own fault, other than you shouldn't have done that, but you're always focused on someone else's money. So it's like, how do you own more of who you are so that you can monetize yourself without other people's money involved?
I think that goes for other sports as well. We talked about, for example, let's say soccer, FC Barcelona is one of the strongest sports brands. That's the same thing. It's not sustainable for them just to get the prize money from winning the league. They need to also, like you said, merchandise, for example. And talking about that, like in soccer, you always talk about shirt sales. How many shirts do you sell? What is the most common merchandise for different esports to sell and to get profit from?
I mean, jersey sales and apparel. That's what it is. Whether that's the right way, whether that's sustainable, I have no idea. I think everyone's starting, it's like the old, we're a lifestyle brand. It's like, sure you are. Everyone's a lifestyle brand. I see brands like XSET, Esports Org that are really trying to build out more on the premium side of fashion brands. I think fashion has become a very strong connectivity between an org and their fans and customer base, that they feel really proud of wearing their hoodie, that it's not just no offense to Gildan, but it's not just some cheap Gildan cotton shirt with a logo on the front, which was kind of like the original merchandising, which was like, how do we create a product at the lowest price possible and sell it at the highest price possible? But ultimately, we're making a shirt for 50 cents and selling it for $12, like massive margins, but low quality. I think it's now become a little smaller margins, but high quality. But that means that those fans are really making an investment into who we are as an esports org. How do we start to do more collaborations with other IP? How does an esports org partner with a hip hop artist, a rock band, an actor, another fashion designer? They're thinking more creatively about partnerships and connecting their orgs into other verticals of culture. So they're not just monetizing based on, hey, we've got a shirt with our logo on it, which is traditionally what, you go into an NFL game, an NBA game, it's like the cheap shirts that they throw out at halftime. Like that was the original merchandising, is just shirts with logos on them. Now it's like you even see the NBA and you see soccer and you see football and you see all sports, like they're starting to become a little more protective over their IP in a good way. And they're making cooler partnerships, which adds to the affinity that their customers are going to have with their brand, that they feel different when they purchase the product, which means they feel different when they wear the product, which means they feel different when they think about you, rather than using your shirt as the towel to wipe off, your countertop, which is like as good of the quality is. Now it's like you wear that hoodie because it's like, oh, I got a cool event that I'm going to. I'm going to put on my esports org hoodie because it's a cool collaboration with some cool fashion designer. That's how I think that world kind of evolves. But it's one big bubble. It's like Web3. You're raising money at a billion dollar valuation with zero credibility of how you get there. I think it's one big bubble. I think we're at the forefront of this. There's a lot of headwinds ahead, and this is just the start of it. We're not in a good place. I'll tell you that much. There's going to be a lot more announcements that are coming up. That's just what my gut tells me. I have no data to back it up. When it happens, I can't wait to pull this clip and say, oh yeah, Darren was talking about it in November. Because I think we're going to see a lot more consolidation. I think orgs are going to consolidate together in a way similar to what Optic and Envy did in kind of an IP way. I think that's going to happen. I think orgs are going to shut down. I mean, I have no idea, but that's just kind of where my gut is at, because I just don't see how it continues to be like, I don't see the sustainability currently. And you can't compare it to traditional sports because they've got players associations and multi-million-dollar TV deals. That's where the majority of that revenue comes from. It's the NFL having a TV deal that's worth $500 million. Well, hello, esports doesn't have that, and esports orgs in and of themselves don't have that. So it's just a different business model. So you can't even compare the two.
No, but there are still a lot of people interested in esports, and there must be some type of streaming broadcasting.
Well, again, but it's the idea of like, I didn't say people aren't interested in esports. It's the business model of the organizations. So that's where, again, it's like the industry is so different than other industries. Again, I believe in esports. I believe in the competitive nature of video games. What I don't believe in is the current model that esports orgs have raised hundreds of millions in billions of dollars in valuation across the industry. I don't see how that's sustainable or how that valuation is real in the current model of how they're building. That's what I don't agree with. I know that there are really, really valuable content creators that are making a tremendous amount of money by building these massive audiences online. I believe in that. I believe in the idea of people like to watch competitive games of the video games that they play and watch their favorite player compete. And then I believe in this category of esports. It's the middlemen that I'm a little about, because we're only 5-6 years into it, right? NBA and these sports have been around for 100 years. Esports is a thing in the last 10 years, if you want to stretch it. We're at the infancy. So I'm not saying this in a negative way. I don't believe in esports. I just think we're so early. I think a lot of what people thought was going to happen in 2014, 15, 16, 17 on how they were predicting the next 10 years is completely wrong. And I'd love to see how people raise money in 2015 and if it's actually come to fruition today, because I would be flabbergasted if they predicted it the right way, especially with the pandemic that just hit. So one man's opinion.
Yeah, definitely. But it's an interesting one. And as you said, it might be a bubble. It might burst. It might, put things on its end, change a bit. And as you said, it's still in its infancy. So maybe, you don't know, decade, a couple of years forward, maybe there is a sustainable model.
Yeah. Again, it's like people forget that it's been around for 5 years at scale, 10 if you really want to stretch it, but like 5 years. Esports has been at a large scale conversation for 5 years. Crazy to even, it's nothing. And one of those years was a global pandemic, so it's 4.
Yeah. But didn't the esports get kind of a, boost from the pandemic? That's what my assumption would be.
I don't believe so. I think the category of gaming did, but maybe. My thing is just, I think gaming got a boost in category, but I don't think that trickled down to, now all these esports orgs are just booming. Again, esports organizations. Why are they laying people off then? Why is every esports org going through massive layoffs?
Can't be good.
Well, I know. I'm saying that based on your question of the pandemic brought all this opportunity. Meanwhile, the esports orgs, during the boom of everybody being stuck at home playing video games, 18 months after that, all these esports orgs are going through massive layoffs. Not my opinion. I'm just looking at the data points.
This episode is sponsored by InSport Education, the online business school for sport. They offer a range of different courses, for example, Foundations of Sport Business, Private Equity in Sport, and much, much more. As a listener to this podcast, you get 10% off all of their courses using the code SportsManagementPodcast10. Click the link in the description below and sign up today. An interesting topic in sports generally, for me at least, is diversity. And you mentioned before that one of your clients, the Web3 content creator, is black, and that's not very common. So how does the diversity look like in esports with regards to gender, race, age, and so on?
Again, I'm not a race baiter. I'm not a fan of people just doing it because of it. I think that's where it also comes across as corny and pre-produced. I don't like pre-produced diversity where you place people in certain positions to make the show of we're diverse. I don't like that. And I think consumers are smart enough to see that, right? It's the woke culture. It's when you go on TV and you've got woman, you've got this, and it's like, you guys pre-plan that. It's too produced. I don't like pre-produced diversity. I like genuine diversity where it just so happens that there are a ton of different like-minded people that look different, that love different. Like, I like that when it's just natural and organic. And that's something that I feel proud of being able to work with someone like Brycent, who's a Black content creator in general on a platform like Twitch, that it's not Black History Month and we're going to put Black content creators on the front page of Twitch for that 1 month, or like that pre-produced stuff. It's just, I think there's a need for it. I don't think it's anything that's the gaming and esports industry purposefully was like, oh, we're gonna just do it this way and we're gonna like not work with Black content creators. I think to the point, like, it's been 5 years, right? Like, it's not like this is 100-year industry that 100 years later we're still at where we're at. I think it's just the nature of how things come about. And I think traditionally, when the gaming and esports industry maybe started, like, the demographic was a lot of white guys, and that's okay. And like, the industry was kind of created over here. And as it got exposed to more of a diverse audience, diversity starts to come into the midst. But like, they were on the late end of a community that was already developed, and it wasn't purposefully in any way, shape, or form. So it's not like, I don't like it people is like, oh, it's an issue. No, it's just like the natural form of evolution. You know, it's like, I don't know, like taking it as like a human being. It's like, I grew up in the suburbs and I went to a private school with a lot of white folks. And like, it's not a bad thing. That's just how I grew up. And as you get older, you meet new people and you meet other people from different walks of life. And like, if you just like chastise me for growing up and only potentially seeing white people in my preschool, I'm like, wow, that's just where I was. That was just my environment that I was a preschooler in. So I use that as like the analogy of like, I don't think it's a problem. I just think it's the natural form of evolution of our society and life. And I think it's great that I get to work with folks like Brycent and put him on a pedestal, because that can only help younger people coming up, that they know that they've got an opportunity. So kind of a long-winded way to say, like, I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's a problem. I think it's just a natural form and occurrence. And if you can find somebody that's not just a white guy with brown hair and you believe in them, it only benefits it. But I'm not working with Brycent because he's a Black content creator and that's it. I believe in him. I just think that adds another unique component, because I believe in the ultimate evolution of where the industry is going, which there's going to be more of a diverse audience coming into the industry. And I want to work with one, but I'm not doing it because of it. I just know that it's going to naturally happen. And I want to be working with somebody to help spearhead that natural cadence of evolution.
Yeah, I hear that. But for example, I would assume that the most people in the esports community is younger white male. So in order to grow a sport, you need more people. So how do you grow the sport? Is to reach out to the groups that you are not currently having in your sport. So maybe that would be women. Maybe that would be Black people. Maybe, I mean, in Asia, it's quite big, esports. But I mean, wouldn't it be in interest for the industry to, invite people from these groups that are currently not involved in the industry?
Of course. I think they are. I think they're very inviting. I mean, that's the beauty of the gaming space. It's free. It's free to play. It's free to create content, right? If you're generating enough awesome content, people will find you. If you're good enough at playing the game, you'll be successful. Is it going to happen right away? Of course not. But pandering to an audience and speaking down to them like they don't have the opportunity or they're not skilled enough, that we're gonna prop you up and give you this opportunity that you didn't earn, I also think doesn't help. Because I think if you're good enough, we're going to find you. And the natural cadence of evolution is if we're trying to find the best player, of course you should look in different communities. I'm trying to find the best basketball team. I have to search I'm a basketball player. I'm searching everywhere for the best basketball player. I'm searching everywhere for the best basketball. I mean, like, look at sports teams. They do recruitment. They recruit everywhere and they want the best players possible. That creates the best culture possible, that creates winning organizations. So yes, I believe in it. I just think it's the way you go about it and how you communicate it cannot be this charitable pandering to a community every once in a while that you're creating something special for them. It's like, no, we want to do this because we know that we haven't done it. And we know that in order to find the best players, we have to broaden our umbrella so that we're able to see and talk and reach more people, because that's the right thing to do. Not because it's the thing that we're doing that's special for the moment, but that's the natural occurrence of growing and evolving communities, is trying to reach more people because we want to, not because we're pandering for them for a diversity checkbox for our organization, which I think it's a thin line between how you do that. And I think consumers and customers see that. Are you doing it because you want to, or are you doing it because you feel like you have to? And I think it's proper for people to do it because they want to, not because they have to, because of an organizational diversity checkbox, which I think is going to become very clear. And I have plenty of examples that I won't bring up of diversity checkboxes that is unsustainable, and people see right through that bullshit versus I want to because it's what's best for our organization.
No, I agree. But my thinking is that if you have someone like Brycent, if other kids, black kids, look up to him and see that he made it, they might too also join this and say, he did it, so I want to do it. Just like you have Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or whatever role model in other sports, that you can have someone. If you're looking into esports and you see that there is no one who looks like me, for example, let's say that, maybe you go into another sport and then you lost the potential talent. That's my thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I guess my mentality on a lot of that stuff is I understand the value of that, and I think there's a place for it, but I'm also not only reliant upon that. I'm not forcing a square into a round hole also, because that doesn't help anybody out either, and it comes across as tinny. It's like you're forcing this upon people rather than just empowering and doing it because you want it to happen. Nobody forced Michael Jordan to become Michael Jordan. He became Michael Jordan. Nobody forced Tiger Woods to become Tiger Woods. He earned the opportunity to become Tiger Woods. So I think it's this mentality of Tiger Woods earned Tiger Woods. He's an amazing golfer, awkwardly good golfer. He wasn't propped up for a diversity checkbox. He earned that ability, which makes it inspiring to see. Not I'm going to force somebody here and then use that as a pander to that community. That's where I don't believe in that. I want Brycent is going to earn his spot as a black content creator because he's a rock star. And if I can help him get there by putting him in places that might have taken him longer to get there, that's what I'm going to do. He's going to earn that spot. And I think earning it and not propping up for that month or that week is where the differentiator comes from. That's how you find Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan. You don't find them by placing people there for the checkbox. That's where like the context of why I agree with you. I just think it comes, again, they earn the ability to do that, which makes it inspiring. And that'll naturally occur as you widen your umbrella and you widen the top of the funnel of let's go try to recruit our Valorant players inside of these communities that we might not have recruited from before, because we want to, because we're trying to find the best player, not to just create a cast of characters from different diverse backgrounds and say that we're doing that to hit the checkbox. I think that's unsustainable too. And it just comes across as tinny. I want to find the best. I want to find Tiger Woods of Valorant. And then once I find him, that's going to be awesome because I found him. Like that's the value. And then you unlock that community of like, Yeah, that play, like we remember him when he was a nobody and now he's a somebody and he earned that spot to be there and that org found him, and that's a great story.
Yeah, definitely. It's a it's a long conversation. We can talk about this forever.
Yeah.
But I get your point, definitely. Talking about the content, this is an audio podcast, but you're wearing a TikTok hat here. So, and I know, I mean, VaynerSports, obviously you mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk before. He has talked a lot about TikTokification, which I think he made up that word, to be honest. So, yeah, how important is TikTok for content creation, and how is VaynerSports working with TikTok?
We're bullish on the platform, right? It's a new platform of attention that has a ton of consumers and fans that are engaging with TikTok. We've got a couple athletes that have curated over 1 million followers on TikTok that are booming, that aren't the best players on the field, but they're generating more revenue than some of the best players on the field because they've unlocked a new platform to connect with their fans and build a community around. So I think it's like, from my angle, from a gaming side, is you have so many gamers that have overinvested their entire career on Twitch. And now that Twitch has become bigger, it's become more vanilla, it's harder to find people. There's just an oversaturation of creators on Twitch, and the algorithm on Twitch is just as bad as I've ever seen. It's very difficult to grow your career. And there's not a day that I see on Twitter that some gamer is complaining about low numbers and low viewership and becoming depressed, and I'm streaming for 12 hours a day and all this other stuff. You have to find your community elsewhere, where it's what we did with Bugha. So Bugha streamed on Twitch after he won Fortnite World Cup, and after we signed him, he streamed on Twitch, and that was our long form piece of content. Then we took that and chopped it up and distributed that on TikTok and Instagram in a way that grew his audience on there, because we hacked those platforms. Now, when we sell Bugha, he's a flywheel content creator. What do you want to do? You want to be on TikTok? We got 5.7. You want to be on Instagram? Great, we have 5. You want to be on YouTube? Great, we got 4.9. Well, like, we've got everything. That increases our revenue for Bugha, because we're not just selling one platform with one set of analytics. We're selling a brand. That's the idea of thinking about this as a brand that content creators have to think about. And TikTok is a very valuable platform. It just takes consistency to be on there. And I'm empathetic. It takes a lot of time and effort to do that, but it's like, stream less, put more impact into 6 hours of streaming, which then opens up the time to create content on other platforms, so that you become more holistic, that even though your Twitch viewership is down, the content that you're creating is still really good and you're still growing another platform. So I think TikTok in general is a great adjunct platform to think about as a content creator. If your numbers are down with streaming, build your brand elsewhere and find those viewers while they're scrolling through TikTok. So they'll follow you on TikTok and check you out on Twitch. And now you've got this nice highway of fans that go back and forth. And you're starting to see that now I've seen more live stream gaming on TikTok than ever before the last 2 months. Man, people are streaming on TikTok. They're talking to TikTok. They're talking to their Twitch chat. They're telling people on TikTok to go to Twitch, telling people on Twitch to go to TikTok. Like, that's how you start to develop an audience on multiple platforms as a content creator. And I hope more gamers start to do that.
So it's a vehicle to grow their actual business, more or less.
100%. I mean, you're just stunting your growth when you overinvest in one channel and one platform. You have to democratize who you are and where you show up, because you're the biggest on Twitch and you were nowhere else and your viewership goes down on Twitch. You're just going down with the ship. Not a smart strategy.
So why is the algorithm so different on TikTok versus Instagram or Facebook, Twitter?
So it's all based on interests. So the algorithm taps into this interest-based economy, that I'm being purposed with content that TikTok thinks I'm interested in, versus being purposed with content that's relevant to my demographic, which is what like traditional Facebook ads were, where it's like, which unlocked a whole new world, which is awesome. They revolutionized digital media by thinking about purposing content in front of a 30-year-old white male who likes sports and lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That ad was placed in front of me. But the organic algorithm of TikTok, not just the paid side of TikTok, is what makes it so valuable, is that it's an interest-based algorithm. So if I like a ton of this style of content, or with that music track to it, or with that style of creator, it's all interest-based, which talk about hacking a system. I mean, you find out where interests are on TikTok and make a shit ton of content that's all underneath that umbrella of interests and set yourself up for success. Give yourself enough, swings at the plate to be successful. But it's following trends, and trends are all based on interests. So how do you hack the system and put your content in the form that generates some level of interest in that audience that's trending on TikTok? That's how you hack it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So talking about Gary, how is his involvement with the VaynerSports?
He's great. I mean, Gary's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, running a million different businesses, right? So, Gary's not involved on a day-to-day basis in the business. He sits at the top of the totem pole. He's very aware of what's going on. He's just not involved in the day-to-day actions to make it happen. But he's the directional individual that knows where the world is moving, how to get there. He's got all the relationships that you'd ever think about. He's a great top of funnel awareness driver. Whereas he's thinking about different items, you already know that the internal team behind it has been well aware of what he's been thinking about. He's just publicly talking about it. So he's a great captain. He sits at the top of the ship, right? He's not in the basement cooking lunch for the shipmen, right? But he knows where we're going and how we're going to get there. And he's hiring the right people to help steer and do everything else that the ship needs to do in order to get to the end destination. So he's awesome. Knows exactly what's going on. He's a great general. You get a ton of awareness from what he's talking about. And he knows that the people that he has hired at VaynerSports from a sports angle, which Gary's very passionate with, is growing that brand in the space and helping drive the business.
He's very motivational in his appearances on social media, etc. And so what is something that you have learned from Gary?
He's made me even more obsessed with consumer behavior. I think I always had it, and that's kind of how I started my career. But being more assimilated inside of this Vayner ecosystem has shown me the ability to become obsessed with consumer behavior and make your point of views and your actions and where you want to go based on the behavior of people, not based on preconceived notions of where you want the world to go, but you're finding out where to go based on where everyone's behavioral components are on a daily basis. So my belief in gaming and esports happened because of my belief in the behavior of the industry. I could just see the world moving in that direction, and I liked what it was building. So being involved in this ecosystem and following Gary, I would say that's the biggest influence that I think he's had, is to continue to double down on following consumer behavior and then create your POV and your point of views of marketing opportunities and creative ideas based on that direction of where people are going. Don't sell a product because you feel like you have to sell it. Sell it because you really believe in where the world is headed and going.
Yeah, authenticity, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's Gary's MO. Yeah, authenticity, empathy.
Approaching the end here, is there something I haven't asked you yet that you want to mention?
I'm an open book, so I'm not pushing or promoting anything. So no, I got nothing. And you want to ask me some more questions, happy to answer them. But I got nothing that I'm pushing. So
yeah, we can just talk a little bit about your own background. You said that you have a background in marketing, and you also you studied marketing, right? And then you worked as have had some marketing roles before. So just quickly from how did you start and your journey up until today?
Yeah, I centered around consumer behavior. I mean, one of my best friends got drafted to the NBA, and I started working with him and figured out the way that it was being done at his sports agency of content and building a brand. And I thought I could do it better because I had some new ideas that I didn't see were being done anywhere else. So I sold that creative business model into an advertising agency and went to work on the advertising side, where the whole kind of, how would I sum it up, is like connecting brands to culture, because I think culture is a big driver of everything, and it's a very broad word that you can dive into. So it's like, but if a brand can't capture culture, they're a step behind. So it's like consumer behavior is like, AKA what's driving the trends of today's culture, and how does a brand interact with those trends in a fast, quick environment. So it's like macro strategy and being able to have these like micro moments that are constantly kind of tracking that journey of whatever that macro strategy is for yourself. And that's what I've been doing. So working with Tyus in the NBA, working with athletes at a marketing agency, doing business development in sports and entertainment, working at a startup company around athletes and entertainers that play video games on Twitch, and then working here. Everything is kind of like on the forefront of where people are headed and how do you build and grow a business in that direction, but then also help brands get there that aren't in it on a day-to-day basis. And because they don't have to be. Like they're focused on the now, and how do you work with folks like myself that you believe has just a knack for where culture is headed, and how do you work with them to help drive business results that way? So it's just kind of my whole background. Nothing crazy about it. Like I continue to try to stay at the forefront of culture, and then just have a knack for creating good messaging and understand marketing at its core to be able to really immerse myself in a brand and figure out, hey, how do you get involved with that side of culture in a way that's not just pandering to that audience, but you're genuinely interested and you're coming at the community. You're not just advertising to their eyeballs, but you're actually joining the community in an authentic way. I hate that word too, but but it's the word that describes it, but it's the tactics that make it authentic. You can't just say authenticity. Your actions and your tactics have to prove and show that you're trying to be authentic. And that happens over time. So, that's kind of where my background has been. And then to the point, like Gary's just inspired me to triple down on that mindset that I've had over the last 7-8 years of my career.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I don't think I hate the word authentic, but
I hate it.
You hate it?
I hate authentic. Yeah. It's overused. Inauthentic people use the word authentic because it's a marketing buzzword these days.
Yeah, I see it.
I hear it too much, and I hear it from people that I know are not authentic. So it's like people have ruined that word for me.
I see where you're heading.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, the last question that I ask everyone is, if you could choose the next guest on this podcast, who do you think I should talk to?
I would say on the sports side, I think it would be interesting to talk to, from a category side, I would be curious to talk with somebody at one of the esports leagues or one of the publishers that kickstarted their career in sports and ask them all around their jump into the gaming industry and to poke and prod at their understanding of it, or whether they don't understand it and they're just trying to create another sport by the infrastructure of traditional sports. Or did they get kind of sick and tired of traditional sports and jumped ship because they found a new way of growing fandom and audience and media and entertainment via this new style of competitive content? I think that would be really interesting to kind of get the contrast between both.
Definitely. And also, a little bit of what we talked about earlier with is it a sustainable business model and how do they look at it? And as you said, did they just make copy paste out of another sport, or are they trying to do something new? Or
I think, talking to someone at like Riot, who was traditionally from the business side, selling sponsorships or something to that aspect. James, probably connect you with them afterwards.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, it's someone that, again, was like traditional at the NFL for 10 years and then went over to the publisher side because they actually own the game, right? And it's like the laughable aspect of, again, as we talked about sports and esports, it's like Riot owns Valorant. They literally own the IP of Valorant. It would be as if the NBA owned basketball, right? That's kind of the idea of it. And I think that's fascinating. It would be as if the NBA controlled global lengths of 3-point lines. Or if they controlled everything, that if the NBA made a change, everything basketball would have to change. That's obviously not what it is. But it's fascinating to see a company like Riot own and control a very valuable brand in the gaming industry, which is Valorant. They own it. Esports orgs don't own it. Everyone's tapping into your IP. So I think it'd be an interesting conversation to ask them about that, of how they think about it that way, that they're working for a company that you own a sport.
For sure.
Like you're owning the entire sport. Versus NBA has created a competitive environment of a sport, but anyone can do anything with the sport. the difference between that and how that grows and whether they open it up. That's a whole different conversation. It's like Fortnite, right? With creative maps. Battle Royale, they own. Creative maps, someone else owns. It's the Minecraft Roblox component. Leveraging other people to create games using your IP. Will Valorant ever do that? Is there a competitive game that will come out of Minecraft and Roblox that somebody develops that actually turns into the biggest esport that wasn't created by the developers and the owners of the game? Like, that's fascinating to me to think about that.
Yeah, definitely. Darren Glover, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Sports Management Podcast.
Thanks, Marcus. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.